Hello all my Indian audience and my international audience. Today with us is Marisika Majoor and her daughter Robin with us, and we are
Hello.
going to yes, and we are going to discuss about Marisika Majoor's book, The Red Light Amsterdam, The Future of Our Past, and that's her book, The Red Light District, The Future of Our Past. And thank you so much, Marsika Majur, for coming here. And thanks a lot, Robin, for also coming here. And beginning is with that. Tell us, Marsika, why you decided to start with the writing of this book.
Well, thank you for having us. First of all, we're very happy to be with you today. Actually, we like to speak about two books. So not only the book about the Red Light District, but also the book United Under a Red Umbrella. I think it's interesting to also speak a little bit about this book, because for this book, we also visited India in 2018. So maybe we can speak a little bit about our experience in your country too, if you find it interesting. The reason why I wanted to publish the book about the Red Light District is because it's been my neighborhood for many years. I used to work behind the windows as a sex worker for a couple of years, and after that I started the Prostitution Information Center behind the old church in the middle of the Red Light District. I'm also responsible for Belle, the sex worker statue. You can see her on the photograph here, a photograph made by Robin, by the way. And because the Red Light District at the moment is in a lot of trouble, actually, you can say, I've found it necessary to explain more about its history and its present to all the people that find it interesting to know more about. And besides that, there's a lot of my personal experiences inside the book, plus conversations that I have about sex work and the neighborhood with my daughter, Robin. And that makes it, I think, very special. In my best English this early morning.
Okay, how was your experience while writing this book? Please tell to our audience, like when you were writing this book, how was your experience?
Well, writing this book was very special because in the book, I make a walk through the Red Light District together with Robin. So it starts with a couple of my memories from the past. And I asked my daughter, what's it like to have a mother that used to work as a sex worker? And well, I think that it was very special for me too. It's not like I kept it a secret all her life. You know, I was always quite open about my past as a sex worker. But to really sit down and ask very direct questions like, could you speak about that at school, for example? Or when you were a little kid and you walked around in the Red Light District looking at the women in their working outfits in the windows, what was your idea with that? And how did you explain about it at school? I think that was special. I think it was special for you too. Yes. It was definitely special for me. So in the book, we walk around in a neighborhood and we speak about all these things together. And we also speak with different people that we meet on the street, like sex workers, but also a local police officer and people that live in a neighborhood or do totally different things. So not necessarily in the sex industry, but also working in a wood shop or working in a hotel or a normal bar, for example. And yeah, I think the most special thing for me was the combination of our conversations for the book. And while we were walking around in the neighborhood, Robin was taking pictures of the people we spoke to or the streets we passed. So, you know, in the book you see a lot of photographs inside places or on the street, a pussy in the window. And locals that we spoke to. So yes, all that.
So many Indians, like over in, especially in India, they don't know, unfortunately, you. And as I know that you are one of the best, sex workers' rights activist in Netherlands. It will be very much a big honor if you tell about your work a little bit to our audience. So, so that they get enlightened from their ignorance about this taboo and stereotype of sex rights workers.
Okay. I was very young when I started to work as a sex worker myself. I was only 16, which was a bit strange for Robin. What she explains in our book about the red light district as well. She couldn't really imagine that you can actually do that at that age, but at the time for me it was not really a big problem. Actually I started to work as a sex worker because I needed money to buy myself a dog. Perhaps that sounds a bit strange, but it was a typical me at the time. About a year later, I moved to Amsterdam to work in the windows. And during all those years, I wasn't really thinking a lot about things. I lived a bit of a wild life, and I never had a problem having sex with strangers, especially not for money. When I quit working, that wasn't a time that I started to feel a little bit different about sexuality, about the things I did in my life. I wanted to change a couple of things, and I noticed then how much problems I actually had with this stigma on sex work. I never had a problem with doing sex work myself, but I did have a problem with the way the world around me looked at me. When people walk around in the red light district, for example, they look at the people behind the windows with, in my opinion, totally wrong ideas. People think that you can only do sex work when you are forced into this, forced by economical issues or forced by pimps or criminals or bad boyfriends or whatever. And I think the way people feel about sex workers, looking at them as victims or bad people or dirty people, whatever, it makes you feel very vulnerable, makes you feel small and not worthy, or not part of society as an equal level, with other people that have so-called normal jobs. So when I quit working as a sex worker, I spent a lot of time thinking about that. And I felt a huge need to do something with that. I felt a huge drive to explain about this to people in society in general. So I started making a magazine. That was actually my first project, the Pleasure Guide, a magazine to inform people about sex work. And that developed into the Prostitution Information Center. That was in 1994, so a long time ago, almost 30 years ago. It's still existing. And the most important drive for me, that also counts for all the projects I did after that, is to make people aware of all this that I just tried to explain to you, to explain that stigma is actually the most important problem for sex workers. And if you want to do something good for people that work in the sex industry, it doesn't matter how they work or why they work or where they work, is to have more respect for them and to make sure that they can work in safe, well-organized circumstances. I think that's the best help that you can give people that work in this industry. It developed in this book, United Under a Red Umbrella. It's not a commercial project. It's a book that is sponsored by the local Prostitution and Health Center in Amsterdam. And for this book, Robin and I visited 13 countries in 2017 and 2018 to speak about the life and working circumstances of the human rights of sex workers around the world. And so we also visited Kolkata. I say it wrong. We still say
Kolkata.
So that I see it right. Yeah, and I think that the most special visit in your country was to. I hope you can see it.
Yeah, I can see it. Yeah, I can see it.
It's a home. It's a home for children of sex workers in Calcutta. And that was for us very special to visit. You see Robin sitting in the middle here. It's a self-portrait.
Yeah, I can see.
Her with the with the red umbrella. You know, the red umbrella is the international sign for sex workers' rights. And you guys in India have, in my opinion, and I think it's true, the strongest sex workers' rights movements in the world. You guys do it a lot better than us in the Netherlands, for example, with organizing things, you know, your own bank, your own homes and support systems for sex workers and their children. And we thought that's absolutely amazing. So we really want
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Yeah. No, it's an inspiration for us how you guys do things, really. And yeah, well, all that.
Okay, moving ahead. So Robin, my question is to you. So like, how was your experience while like your mom was writing the book and you were also involved in this project? So tell us about the experience, like your experience.
Well, the experience for me was also very special because this neighborhood, the Walle, the red light district, has always been a big part of my life. I grew up there, and as my mom already said, like she never kept her past or what she was doing, her work, a secret from me. But it was very special to really have open conversations about everything and really, how do you say that, going into the deep, like really dig out all the questions that also usually a lot of other people have for us, to actually have that conversation, just the two of us, and just really open and honest. And it was really nice because I also, with my photography, I got to view the area as how I see it, because usually a lot of tourists and other people from outside the neighborhood have this specific view of the red light district, like, oh, it's scary and all the bad things happen there. But it's also a living area. It's an area where children grow up and where I grew up. So it's very special. And I hope with my photography that I can show you how I see it in my way. But it was very special.
So my one more like I want to ask is that what is the content of this book that makes it so much special for the readers that they must read? I know like this question is very much like boring question, but this is a very crucial question from the perspective of the readers.
Yes. Wil jij die antwoorden?
Kunnen we samen doen? Yes. We're asking each other who's going to answer the questions. Both one part.
Okay. Well, I think what makes it very special is that it's an insider's view. So it's written by Mama, who worked there, who lived there, who knows a lot of people. So, and also because of me, I grew up there and I didn't live there, but I was there a lot. So I think it's very special because it's from the inside. what also makes it special is that it's a mother-daughter project. So it's very personal. We talk a lot about our own experience. Mama has a lot of throwbacks that she writes little stories from the past of when she lived there and when she worked there, and I find that very special. Even a lot of stories I already knew, but still when I sometimes read them, I don't know, it gives me a very special feeling. Wat kunnen we nog meer zeggen?
I think it's good enough.
Okay.
She already said everything. No, I do believe, to confirm what Robin explains, is I think it's very unique to read about a conversation that a mother and a daughter have about sex work and the red light district. And that combined with an inside view of somebody that used to work in the windows herself, but also knows the area from different, in different stages, and many people in the area that also speak about their view, what they do there, how they feel about things. I think it's very interesting to read for everybody, because the red light district of Amsterdam, it's a lot of people imagine things about it. A lot of people have visited the area, but actually don't realize that it's also a living area, and with things that happened in the past, and the way they want to change things for the future. So besides our personal views and stories, I also think it's very informative for people. You can buy it on Amazon for not too much money. So read it, and I hope you enjoy it.
So what is your view about the Wallen Street? Like, you have been there for so many years. So what is your view about the Wallen Street? Like a critical view, anything in your mind?
Well, my view on the Wallen, on the red light district, is, from my personal point of view, for me, it's home. And I think it's very special that in our small village, in our small area, which feels like a village, you can find everything you can imagine that happens in life, all together happening in a small area of about 1 square kilometers large. Sex work, yes, but that's only one part of it. You have churches in the middle. You have a kindergarten, places where children go to school. A lot of older people, a lot of younger people that live there together, from all levels of society. That everything that life has to offer comes together here. Also very extreme things. And it's really, really special. I think you should cherish that, you have to take good care of it. And for me, it shows the real identity of Amsterdam. So if it ever goes away, like some people want, for me, it would mean a huge loss.
So like, why sex work is so much a taboo in throughout the world, including in my nation? And what is your perspective about that? And one more thing is that sorry, I am adding one more question in this. How was your feeling when your work got recognized by the Netherlands government back in 2017?
Well, to start with your first question, I think sex work is a taboo because sex itself is still such a difficult subject for people. Sex work is about sexuality on one side and money on the other side, which is also a difficult subject for people. So combine those two things together, and it makes people crazy. Maybe it's a bit of a silly answer, but in its basics, I think that's what it is. People find it extremely hard, still in a lot of cultures, to be open about sexuality and to see it as part of life and to see it as something more than only making babies in the secret in the dark part of the bedroom. People find it complicated to also deal with sexuality as a pleasure, and to accept the fact that there are people that simply don't mind having sexual contact with people for money, you know, as a job. It is possible to have sex with somebody you don't have a relationship about, and to kind of shut off your emotions and to see it as a technical thing. I could do that, at least for a part of my life. I changed a bit because I changed the way I deal with my own sexuality. But still, I don't feel bad about what I did before. I hope that makes sense. Does it make sense what I say?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Like my mom always used to explain to me, like you can divide sex for different reasons. You know, you have sex for love, like what you do with your partner, your husband, your wife, your partner. And she always also said, like you can also separate the love from the sex, and then you can do it as work because you do not feel anything for that person. And
Well, you were able to understand that as a child.
I was able to understand that because I was also able to understand that because someone else does it and I don't want to do it, doesn't mean that I cannot understand that someone else would like to do that. Because I think compassion is such a big part of this profession that you can understand just because I don't want to do something doesn't mean what you're doing is bad.
But I think Robin is extremely emotionally intelligent, because the way she explains it, that she was able to understand, does not mean, unfortunately, that the biggest part of humanity understands it that way too. Because I think what you can do very well is understand, yeah, and understand and respect that there are people in the world that deal differently with certain subjects than you do, and you respect the emotions and the opinions of other people. That makes you the beautiful person you are. But it's true. It's not only because I'm her mother and I love her, but that makes her so special. I think what I see when I'm standing behind the window in the red light area and I look at people looking at me, I see a lot of judgment. And I see a lot of people that have an opinion about what I do based on how they feel about it themselves, if you know what I mean. And they project their ideas about sex work, about the red light district onto the people behind the windows, which I think is wrong. And you know, I read it a lot in media and I can hear it in discussions. I can hear people saying it. You know, people sometimes forget that there's only one thin piece of glass in between you behind the windows and the other people walking on the street. You can hear what they say, or you can see it in their eyes. People, I think I already mentioned that before, they have, you know, they victimize you. They have bad ideas about what's happening in those window profiles, and project all those ideas onto the sex workers. I think that's really wrong. People should realize that what sex workers say can actually be true. So you have to believe sex workers when they say that this is something they do because they choose to do it for whatever the reason may be. That's what I meant before, you know, with stigma and you know, negative views. That's the biggest problem for sex workers everywhere in the world.
Oh, that was very much heartening to listen. Going ahead, what we can learn from your nation, Netherlands, like it made the life of workers very much better. So what we can learn, which India can put in its legislations, especially decriminalization thing.
Yeah. Well, first of all, the Netherlands is not doing everything well or so much better as in India. What I mentioned before, we found it extremely interesting and fantastic to see how strong the sex workers movement in India is. And I do believe you have a lot to fight for if you speak about, you know, working conditions. The working conditions in the Netherlands, I think, are a lot better. So that maybe is something to fight for. In India, we have pretty safe and well organized working places in the Netherlands. We have legal brothels, and I mean, sex work is a completely legal profession in the Netherlands. But I think in the meantime, that's also the case in India. Perhaps your problem is more that your country is so big. We have a very small country, so smaller countries are a bit easier to organize than bigger countries with so many people. We have to deal a lot less with poverty, for example, which is for a lot of people a reason to start working in the sex industry. So as long as you have so many poor people, you will absolutely have a lot of people that work in the sex industry simply to support the family. I think two things are the most important to make things better for sex workers. First, it's a good law. So decriminalizing sex work is the number one thing to do, which is also the number one thing to do in the Netherlands. But until now, they still refuse to do that. So that's a big problem here. So sex work is legal and the brothels are legal, but still handled as a problem, if you know what I mean. It's not handled as a ordinary profession. So for brothel owners and also for sex workers, it's still a struggle. It's still a problem to open up a business bank account or to insure your company. Sex work is still something that sex workers will never write down on their CV because society is not looking at it as a normal profession. So that's the number two problem we have. So first, the law is important. Secondly, the way society is dealing with sex work. As long as those two things are an issue in a society, it will stay difficult to be a sex worker. So you have to decriminalize sex work and you have to destigmatize sex work. I think that's the most important thing to fight for in every country in the world.
Okay, this is the last question I'm asking. I have only 7 minutes over here, meeting time. So, how will you describe your transition from a sex worker to a sex worker rights activist in a few words?
I developed, I matured, and from a young rebel, I changed into a woman that started to understand more about what she did and why, and she wanted to also fight for the rights of her colleagues.
Thanks a lot for coming and speaking with Vaman Matters. Marsika ji, we say ji with respect in India. Marsika ji, thanks a lot for coming and speaking. Thanks a
Thank you
lot,
very much. It
Robin,
was a
for being
pleasure.
so much patient, and listening, as well as answering wherever required and needed. Thanks a lot. Have a nice infinite years ahead to both of you, and keep contributing in this field. We need visionaries like both of you. Thanks a lot for coming and speaking with Vaman Matters for Vaman
Thank
Matters.
you. Thank you very much. Bye, everybody.
Bye.